Welcome back to our special election coverage here at CBNnews.com. I'm Mark Martin. So far tonight, Republicans are on track in their battle to win the Senate. Republicans needed to gain 6 seats overall to take control, and now they've just picked up another one in South Dakota. Republican Mike Rounds defeated a Democrat and an independent, both running against him to take the seat that was previously held by Democrat Tim Johnson. Rounds is the current governor of that state. With that pickup in South Dakota and the 2 seats gained earlier tonight in West Virginia and Arkansas, Republicans are now up by 3 seats, halfway to their goal. And joining us now from our bureau in Washington is CBN News White House correspondent Jennifer Wishon. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thanks, Mark.
Well, the president was basically shunned by many Democratic candidates. What role did his presidency play in this election?
Well, I think his presidency had everything to do with the election, and we saw this leading up to it. Early on in the campaigns, the White House said, look, the president isn't hitting the campaign trail. He's staying at the White House because he's dealing with all of these issues that he has to deal with right now, the Ebola crisis, ISIS. But we know that candidates in key Senate races simply didn't want him around. We saw, at least one candidate wouldn't even admit that she voted for the president. We see poll after poll shows 70% of Americans are angry at the direction the country is going. More than half are scared and don't believe the president. And I think as an extension of that, Democrats can protect them from terror threats. So I think, the White House wanted to say, or rather candidates wanted to say, look, this isn't an election about the president. They said I'm on the ballot, but I think truly, this is a referendum on the president. And even the president said, every single one of my policies are on the ballot this November.
Do you think, Jennifer, that there are any Democrats rethinking their decision to leave the president out tonight?
I think so, Mark. I think it really damaged Democrats in the fact that it didn't rally the base. The president's approval rating is at 40%. Well, that's 40% of Americans who like the president. They like what he's doing. And I think leaving him out in some of these key races really kept people home. They weren't motivated. They weren't energized. And I think you look no further than Virginia. I mean, this is a state where the president has done very well since he's been elected president. 2 Democrats have been elected to the U.S. Senate. And one of them tonight is in trouble, Mark Warner.
So are you shocked that Gillespie is giving Warner a run for his money?
I wouldn't say shocked, but I am very surprised. I know Republicans in Virginia thought that in a perfect storm scenario, that Gillespie could do well, that he could, ride this wave of displeasure with the president. But with that said, Mark Warner is a very popular politician in Virginia. He was a very popular governor. He's been a popular senator, and he's not seen necessarily as a liberal Democrat, even though he does support the president a lot. He is seen as a politician or a Democrat who's willing to work across the aisle and really put Virginia first. So I have to say, this is a surprise, and I think even a lot of Republicans of Virginia are scratching their head very happily tonight.
Yeah, interesting to see that nail biter there. All right, Jennifer
Yes.
Wishon, our White House correspondent. Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you.
And joining us once again tonight with more is CBN News senior political correspondent John Wagge. John, we've had another round of polls closing. Tell us what you're looking for in New Mexico and Colorado this time.
Well, New Mexico is a little different from Colorado. New Mexico is one of those outlier states that really nobody thought the Republicans would have a chance. But the Republican challenger Alan Way closed to single digits in the last week of the campaign. And as we're seeing, there are a lot of races that were kind of out there, like the Virginia race, where if Republicans have a chance, they would go over the top with something like that. Colorado is a state where Mark Udall is in big trouble against Cory Gardner, the Republican. Those polls are getting ready to close. And that's a big bright spot for the Republicans, along with, because the Colorado race is one of those that factor into the 6 that they need. They're halfway there now. Colorado is one of the big ones. Republicans still need to hold Kansas, where the last time I checked, the Republican veteran Roberts is holding a slight lead over Orman, the independent. So Louisiana, Colorado, outside chance in New Mexico, and Iowa. There's 4 states. That would put them over the top. And the most likely ones are Louisiana, Colorado, and Iowa. Those are ones where polls either have closed or are closing soon, and we'll start to get results in there.
Yeah, one of the big stories of the night, of course, the Virginia Senate race. Jennifer Wishon talked about that. Let's talk a little bit more about that. It really is a nail-biter right now. Do you think that could indicate a bigger Republican wave coming, or is that a little too optimistic? What do you think?
No, it's part of the wave that seems to be shaping up. It may not be an overwhelming wave, but if Ed Gillespie holds on to the small lead he has now over Mark Warner, it's almost over as far as the Senate goes. I mean, that's one that nobody had factored in to the Republicans when they need 6 seats. And if that one goes, the Republicans have a lot of different options about how they could get to 6. So.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about the governor's races now. Republican Greg Abbott has defeated Wendy Davis in Texas. What about that race?
Well, this was one that was bitterly fought in a red state, and Abbott has been pretty heavily favored to win. It was a nasty race, but, he succeeds Rick Perry, who was a 4-term governor of Texas. Before him was George W. Bush, who was a 2-term governor of Texas. So Texas is on a red roll. So the fact that Abbott won is not too surprising, but he won as soon as the polls closed. They had it declared for him.
And then in Florida, you had mentioned earlier this evening how Florida has really piqued your curiosity.
Well, yes, because I thought that maybe Rick Scott didn't have enough to hold on against Charlie Crist, the former governor, but the last time I checked, he's still maintaining a slight lead with 95% of the vote. So maybe in our next update, we'll know more about the total vote count in Florida. But that's a pretty surprising and a solid win. Maybe part of the wave. Maybe something we could call a wave.
Okay. John Waggy, thanks so much. And of course, stay with CBN News all night for updates right here on our news channel. We're live at 15 minutes after the hour and at 15 minutes before. Or watch us on demand anytime. Plus, follow us on Facebook or Twitter at #CBNElection2014. Go to our special election page for our reporters' live Twitter feed. And we're going to be back at 9:45 with the latest on some of the races. In the meantime, stay with us online for continuous updates.